Hi, everybody. It's Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to my Wednesday semi-weekly local business spotlight. Today, I am joined by a special guest, Dr. Dave Miles with Transformative Alignment Group. I got that right. Did I get that
Yes,
right? Okay. So
absolutely.
I don't want to do Dave an injustice by inaccurately describing your job, because I know we talked about this before, what you do. So I'm going to ask you, Dave, to tell everybody about what your title is, and just generally about what you do, and then we will get into just a conversation, and I will answer or try to answer any questions that pop up in the comments as we are live. So, Dave, I'm going to turn
Sure.
it over to you. Just tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, my name is Dr. Dave Miles, and like you said, I'm a kind of founder and principal, chief cook and bottle washer here at the Transformative Alignment Group. We recently went through a total rebranding about a year or so ago, and that was really good. And then we've been tightening up our messaging. And one of the things that I've really been shedding stuff and concentrating on is, and our primary purpose is helping CEOs kind of uncover and address some of that hidden drain on their productivity and profits that's caused by disengaged employees. We kind of ran into, by happenstance, it took a while. Gallup research that I already knew was out there, stuff I've seen for years. And then for some reason, a couple of years ago was one part, and then about 8 or 9 months ago is another part that really, for lack of a better term, the synapses started to synapse. And I'm like, holy smokes, why didn't I see this before? Put two pieces of data together and realize, wow, this is something. So, big picture in a nutshell, have an example of this on my website. One piece of research over here, Gallup does all the employee engagement surveys. They're the big juggernaut in the industry. They do tons of research. They put out a state of the American workforce or state of the workforce report every year. And they basically, it might be a point or two off, but basically they say, hey, they've got 50% of the workforce is, just clock punchers. They come in, they do their thing, whatever. About 30-some% are actively engaged, right? They're at, love their job, put forth that little bit extra effort, whatever. And then and here's where I'm focusing on, there's like 16% of the workforce that they classify as actively disengaged. I call them bomb throwers, right? Nothing's right. It doesn't matter, right? They hate their job, they hate being there all the time. I get it. I'm in there. Steak, shrimp, and lobster at the cafeteria every week, and they're still not happy, right? It doesn't matter, right? They're never going to be happy.
Right.
That's over here. I've known about that for years. Talked to HR folks. Yeah. Over here, there's some Forbes and Gallup research talking about, Gallup says, hey, these actively disengaged employees cost their employers 34% of their salary every year in lost productivity and efficiency. Well, like I said, it took me a while to put the two together, but when I did and started, some rudimentary first grade math, and I started doing some numbers, and I realized a perfect example. A 300-person company, average salary of 70 grand a year, plus benefits, just using the Gallup numbers, right? The averages that they say. That 300-person company has over $1.5 million a year walking out the door.
Wow.
And lost productivity and lost profits because of, that's the cost of disengaged employees to that 300-person company. And that's just using the Gallup averages, right? It may be worse, it may be less. I don't know. We working with a company, with the manufacturer, and we ran those numbers for their team, and it was like 1.6 million, right? We're like, holy smokes. And all of a sudden, all their guys are like, oh, that's wrong. That's bullshit. That's not right. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like, that's Gallup data, man. I didn't make this stuff up. Like, blame Gallup. Like, that ain't me. No. We're not arguing with the data. We just know there's a lot more than 16% of the people here pissed off and not happy. So that number is way higher. I'm like, got it. So they're like, we don't know what it is. We just know it's a lot more than 16% that aren't happy campers here. And I'm like, yeah. And so what I typically do is I have a process that I use with all these. It's different every time, but it's the same diagnostic prescriptive type of process. We do all these diagnostics. We see what we come up with. We work with the senior leadership team. We shore up and fix all these problems. And our goal is through this process, cut that number, whatever it is, in half. That's the big thing is, there's no magic pills. There's no magic wand. You're never going to make everybody happy.
Right.
It's human nature, right? Until the good Lord comes back, that ain't happening, right? So you're never going to make everybody happy, but you can make some significant process on there. And looking at between that and turnover, you can easily look at, hey, we can work together for 18 months and cut that in half. And for most companies that are that size or bigger, that's real money.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. When you talk about saving them $750,000 or $1 million a year, and that's year over year. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you a couple specific questions, and I actually am going to reference the marketing material that you sent me. But when you say a disengaged employee, can you describe what that might look like? Like me as a business owner, like what is my disengaged employee going to be exhibiting? How do I know I have that person?
Well, a lot of times those kind of people are they're the ones that just you hear the folks, I hate my job, I'm not really happy here, it's just you almost look like they're miserable, right? They hate coming to work. They get the pit in the stomach on Sunday afternoon. I don't want to be here, and everything's bad, blah blah, gossip, whatever. But think about it. If I'm just a normal Joe employee, I don't really care. I don't put forth a lot of extra effort. I do my job. I come in at 9, I leave at 5, whatever. And I got this guy who just hate life, right? And he's over there chewing my ear about how horrible the company is and how they screwed him over, whatever. I can't do my job, but this guy's, at my desk, kind of, and of course you see them. They hop around from cubicle to cubicle, and hey, they're just not happy campers, right? We've all seen it. Like I said, I know there's a technical definition out there that Gallup has, but typically it's just folks that are miserable, they don't like being there, and really they're a detriment to the company, right? They're just not. Yeah, and, it's and then most of the folks, they're neither happy, they're not happy or unhappy. They're just, they may be looking for a job, they may be looking for opens, but they come in at 9, they leave at 5, they do their job, right? And some of them, it's more of all right, well, I joke about it. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to school for 3 years like you did to charge people big money to say it depends, right? So I had to do that for free, right? But if you think about it, I always used to call it the unholy HR contract, right? People call it quiet quitting now, but I used to call it the unholy contract, right? I work just hard enough for you not to fire me, and you pay me just enough for me not to quit. That's kind of what I coined the unholy HR contract. Like, it's not really super benefiting everybody, but we're just kind of the dog sitting on the nail on the porch. I'm kind of howling, but it's not hurting enough for me to get off the porch. That's just kind of, I call you the clock punchers, right? Yeah, they're just there.
Yeah. That analogy makes sense. And I would also like to note, though, the reason that lawyers say it depends, because it does depend.
I know it does depend.
There's very rarely a black and white, and there's a gray and a lot to consider. Like with what you do also, there's, like you said, there's not going to be, flip a switch and there's a magic fix to the problem.
It's not, but like I said, I have tons of lawyer friends, including yourself. And so, like I said, I had to preface it. I didn't go to school for 3 years to charge you lots of money to say those 2 words, right? That's what they do. Yes. I have to tell you, it depends for free.
Well, there you go. I'll have to rethink my fee structure now. So you talked about employees who are actively engaged, employees who are disengaged, and then I saw on the marketing material, not engaged. The not engaged ones, and correct me if I'm wrong from my reading, are the ones that you just mentioned. They come in, they work from 9 to 5, they do their job, but I guess they just don't go above and beyond. They literally come in and they're on time, but they're going to leave when they're 5 o'clock. They're not trying to go above and beyond and do more. Is that correct?
Right. There's certain layers. I mean, there's some that are happier than others. I mean, it's a gradient, right? It's a there's a range on that, versus happy versus not happy. Yeah, I think unofficially, like a textbook definition of people being engaged in their job is, they go and they do that. They love their job. They try to make the organization better every day. And more importantly, they give that little bit extra above and beyond, that extra discretionary effort that they don't have to. And so if you think about, okay, I've got 9 people roughly and everybody's highly engaged and they're in it to win it and they're giving 10% more than they really have to, right? Well, guess what? That's almost a full FTE worth of, wow, do I really need to hire that 10th or 11th person because these 9 or 10 people are really on board and they're in with the vision and they're giving that extra effort that they don't have to? I mean, that's a massively high performing team. And like I said, you're talking about a full person, a full employee, a full FTE. I don't have to hire because these guys are knocking it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Versus, I said they, you may have to end up hiring that 10th person or 11th person, if everybody's kind of in that, not engaged, kind of clock puncher, I jokingly kind of call them.
Mm-hmm.
But like the ones that are actively disengaged are the one. It's like the crabs pulling all the crabs down back into the pot, right? They're just, not happy campers. They're just miserable. They're just not. We've all been around them, and sometimes we've all been in that spot. You're like, oh my God, I'm miserable. I got to get out of here. I hate this place. I got to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm not downing them as a person because all of us can be in a bad spot. I used to work for the fire department years ago. And I remember when I first started as a rookie, and I didn't have it all dialed in. And I'm, kind of idealistic. And I was thinking to myself, God, that old guy's just fussing and, all the time. And he's just complaining and da. So one day, I don't know, I just grab a cup of coffee, pour him a cup. I get a cup. Hey, man, tell me about yourself, man. How long you been here? What do you do? I get that, hear you fussing all the time, but like, explain this one to me, Lucy. Like, what gives, right? Tell me a little bit more about your situation, your career, whatever. Oh my God, Gene, by the time you finish listening to the story, you're like, crap, if all that had happened to me too, I'd be 10 times more pissed off than you are. Like, you had a promotion when you were number one by somebody who was number 16 on the list because they were, their dad was, hunting buddies with the chief or something, whatever kind of nepotism, whatever kind of favoritism, whatever, what the circumstances that happened to them, there was a reason that they're just that ticked off, but they're like, hey man, I got 8 more years until I get my pension. Until I get my retirement, I'm not going to leave now.
Yeah.
And I get it. So I'm not, bad mouthing or do that, but there's a lot of stuff you could do to make jobs better. There's I think a lot of disengaged employees become that way because of poor leadership. That's one of the things where I think I told you before, I'd gone to a state SHRM conference, Society for Human Resource Management, state SHRM conference in Richmond about 2 years ago now. I think this coming April will be exactly 2 years. And I was watching this guy do a presentation. Shout out to the guy. I think his name was Dr. Vince Molinaro. Great presentation on leadership and he had one specific statistic, one specific thing of research that just absolutely hit me between the eyes like a baseball bat. Now, I hadn't quite put all the pieces of this together, but this one thing really just spoke to me. It said, I think it was from like Willis Tower Watson, and there was something else from Gallup and something else from PricewaterhouseCoopers, but this one particular one said, when senior leadership teams are highly aligned, they're working together, they're singing on the same sheet, unified front, you know what I mean? They're all marching to the same beat. They said employee engagement can be as high as 78%. So, wow. Well, I'm not seeing stuff from Gallup saying, really high performing organizations, really high value teams can be as high as in the 70s, right? So it's congruent with some other research I've seen, but that wasn't the real thing that got me. It was cool, but it matched up with stuff I'd already seen. What really got me was the fact that, but when they're not, or they're perceived not to be getting along right, or they're butting heads, or the siloed departments, the drill. It said engagement can be as low as 8%.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, full disclosure, my degree is not in mathematics, right? Just saying. But if only 8% are engaged, I've got a pretty good shot that 92% are not engaged. Now, going back to the state of the workforce, like the marketing material I showed you, 51, how many of those are actively disengaged, costing you money? How many of those are just, I come in, I do my job, I go home? I don't know. There's no way to tell.
Right.
But I can tell you if 75, 78% are engaged, you've only got maybe what 25% of the people that aren't, and then you still got to break that down between I do my job and hey, I hate it here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know about 92%, man. That number, I mean, that could be huge, and that's a ton of money walking out the door. And what I realized, and it was not just there, like I said, it was a PricewaterhouseCoopers study that I saw that said it, companies with highly aligned leadership teams are 2.3 times more likely to be high performing organizations. And you start seeing all this research, and then you realize, wow, all right, here's where it all kind of comes back together. This is a really expensive problem. If it's 16% of the workforce average, costing 34% of their salary. So, like I said, the 300 person company is costing over 1.5 million. Holy smoke, that's real money. How do I fix it? Well, if all of this stuff hinges around, and the big point of leverage is all for the research is all about the senior leadership team, it's like, okay, boom, light bulb goes off. That's where I need to work with. I can have more impact or anybody can have more of an impact in an organization by getting that senior leadership team functioning at top performance, get those guys on the same sheet, have them highly aligned, have them really out there selling the mission. If those guys are, really humming on all eight, things are going to just downhill, downstream start to just go better. And just from research, right? So I realized, okay, if you're going to spend your time somewhere, having a CEO come in, oh, well, this department's not doing well. Can you do a training for marketing? Can you do this for this team over in operations, whatever? They're having problems. It's them. Well, probably not. It's actually probably starting at the top, but that's just something that happens to be rearing its ugly head at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Check clears the bank. Okay, you come in, you do your training, but is there any lasting impact? No.
Yeah.
Is it anything more than just a check the box? Okay, okay, we did something, check. Like, oh, we provided this guy coaching before we fired him, right? So we don't feel so guilty. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. So if you really want to have that impact in the organization, that itty bitty, it's like a lever. It's like a fulcrum and a lever, right? That senior leadership team is the greatest point of leverage in any organization to affect your productivity, your profitability, and your engagement.
I want to ask a question just to back up a little bit, and then I want to get back to the senior leadership team. When you say the money is walking out the door, lost productivity, and you mentioned that $1 million number as an example, can you explain to me and to anybody that may be watching how a disengaged employee results in a company losing money? Like, in theory, it makes sense, but how practically, and I guess what I'm getting at is how practically can it make a company lose money to the point that a CEO, president, business owner needs to pay attention and maybe call you?
Got it. Well, a couple things. Okay. Well, there's a couple good points. I use a term that's not 100% accurate, but most people understand it. Like, for example, typically if I got a whole senior leadership team, we talk about, hey, we're going to cut that cost of disengagement. Like I said, maybe they agree it's at $2 million and we're going to cut that in half by $1 million, right? We're going to save that money. You're not saving that money. Okay. You've already spent it in payroll. Okay. The money's already gone. Here's how you do that. There's two types of, I joke about this, but it's kind of two types of money. Old money, new money, right? If I'm buying $10,000 a month in office supplies and I get a new vendor and now I'm spending $9,000 a month in office supplies, I'm saving old money, right? I can't go into the payroll and say, hey, you guys are costing me, according to Gallup, 34% of your salary. So I'm going to save old money by cutting your salary by 34%. That ain't going to happen, right? It's just not. So what you end up doing is you make new money. Well, how do you create new money? How do you make new money? How do you make more? All right, and my productivity goes up. It's going to obviously affect my profits. My efficiency, my effectiveness goes up. I'm going to make more money. If I have more highly engaged employees that are giving that extra discretionary effort, instead of, I just do my job, I'm here. Okay, man, I really hate this joint. I'm here, right? I'm really, I spend more time fussing at the water cooler than I do actually getting out there and hoofing it, right? Versus the engaged employee is up here giving that extra discretionary effort. Well, if I can move a whole lot of people from I'm not happy to all right, I'm at least willing to just do my job, so I'm happier. And I can move some of those guys that just are 9 to 5ers to man, this place is great. I really love what they're doing. As I'm giving that extra discretionary effort, I'm getting more done. I'm being more productive. I'm not having to pay extra in payroll to hire more people to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it ends up, it's like a lagging indicator on the bottom line. And the problem is, problem. It's not something that as a CEO, my CFO is not going to give that to me on a P&L. Two
Mm-hmm.
costs that are not going to show up. Well, technically 3. These 2 fall under a bigger umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of disengaged employees are not going to show up on your P&L. Ain't happening. Cost of turnover is not going to show up on your P&L. And that's one of the things that in the process is kind of a sidebar to just ensure that we really bring a big ROI. Start talking to the HR people. What is your turnover rate? Because if people aren't happy, they're going to leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another cool engagement stat that, if you're in the HR end of it and leadership end of it, kind of nerd out over, it's like, if you have somebody who's highly engaged or is engaged, right, giving that extra effort, and will love their job, I think they figure it's like 20 or 25% pay increase to really start to tempt them away. And if they're not engaged or they're actively disengaged, nothing. Like, I'm a bank teller. I hate being here. Well, cool. They're hiring another bank teller at a different bank for 50 cents an hour more. Peace out. So it takes nothing to poach an employee or have them walk out the door if they're not happy. But if they're engaged and they're happy and they love their job and they're giving that extra discretionary effort, you got to come up with some coin to get them out of there. I mean, you got to, like I said, I think the research said like 20 to 25% additional pay to really start tempting them away from a job they love.
Mm-hmm.
So you start moving those people that way. And even to a certain degree, it ends up being a Hawthorne effect. Wow, they care about us. Hey, they're actually doing something. Wow, they're actually studying. Remember the Hawthorne studies back in the 50s, I think it was, or 40s or 50s? It was, wow, we're going to brighten the light. Productivity goes up. Okay, we're going to dim the light. Productivity goes up. What the heck? No matter what we do, it moves the needle on that. Well, it was the fact that they realized, wow, they actually care about us.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually doing something for us. And they're actually trying to improve the place. Just them knowing that made the productivity go up regardless of what the control things were, right? More light, less light, more time, So even with that, just the fact that, wow, this isn't what's a good way to put it? The check the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flavor of the month. Yeah, we've all seen it. We've been places to where they come in, they do the corporate speak. Oh, we're going to do this initiative this year. Yeah, but you know that next year you're not going to stick to it. You're going to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 months, and then you'll never hear about it again. That's the kind of thing that you do that and you just erode organizational trust. And they're like, oh crap, here it comes. It's just another flash in the pan, another check the box, another, corporate said we had to do this. It's a whatever. And they don't really mean it from the employee, or you perceive they don't really mean it from the employee level. So you don't really buy into it. You don't take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where really getting that senior leadership team where they've got that unified front and people are like, wow, these guys are they're in it to win it. They're excited about what's going on. They're really doing a bang up job communicating and really showing more of an interest in what's going on. Cool. Maybe I can kind of buy into what they're selling. And they know it's not a fluke. It's not a flash in the pan. It's genuine. We really want to improve the organization. We really want to do right by our folks. We really want to make this a better place. People, when they realize that that's for real and genuine, they can, buy into it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps move the needle on the engagement end of it. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah. How do you think companies, well, this might be an esoteric answer, but how do you think companies got to the point, regardless of size, that this is a common problem, that they have disengaged employees?
Just think that people get so wound up, and it's not a bad thing. It's just we have stuff we need to do every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got to come in, we got to do this, we got to do that. We got to come in, we got to do this, we got to do that. And it's just a lot of things are repetitive, a lot of things, whatever. And unfortunately, it can just be, I'm not stepping back, trying to get that 30,000 foot view and really seeing, okay, where's where's the organization going, right? What's the culture of the organization, right? A culture is really what do you allow, right? What do you tolerate? I
Mm-hmm.
don't care what's one of my big pet peeves is you hear the mission, vision, values. Oh, we believe in this, we want to do that, whatever. Some people, man, they live those. Rock on. Way too many companies. The only two times you hear about them is one in new hire orientation in your employee meeting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Second, if you get called before demand and you got to walk down to the, you got to go down to the CEO's of it. You see them on the wall, but the problem ends up being, unfortunately, and this is really bad for engagement. This is really bad. If I'm an employee or I'm a frontline supervisor, or I'm a middle manager, and I'm watching, like if you're a CEO or you're in that C-suite, you're in that senior leadership team, everybody's watching. It's like, oh, they don't notice. Oh no, brother, they notice. Everybody's watching you. And what you say, vision, mission, values, what's in the employee handbook, whatever, and then what they see
Mm-hmm.
don't match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where you might as well just take out the revolver, figuratively, the organizational revolver, and shoot yourself in the foot, because you don't blown away any organizational trust you have. And once that's gone, it's transactional at that point. I
Mm-hmm.
do my 40 hours. My paycheck clears every 2 weeks. As long as my paycheck keeps coming in, I do too. Right?
Yep.
That's it. And that's where you start moving folks from engaged to not engaged, and depending on the circumstances they have. Oh, goodness. Another cool stat I've used before in a talk that I think Gallup says 70% of the variance in employee engagement comes from their frontline supervisor, who they report to.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be frontline, like, okay, I'm a frontline, but I mean, it could be a director to a VP or a VP to a C-suite, right? Whoever you report to, your direct supervisor, your direct boss, that has more of an impact on your engagement. Like, you might love the company, you might love the work. I mean, I had some years when I was in the fire department, man. Best job in the world. Great department. Loved it. Had a boss who was horrible. I hated coming into work every day. I'm like, shoot me. Make this go away. And it wasn't the department. It wasn't the work. It wasn't what it was. That one dude made it miserable.
Yep.
Right. And so it's a matter of, you start trickling down. It's hard to, if I'm a middle manager and I've got an exec team or senior leadership team that's really doing great and they're treating me like gold, it's hard for them to treat me like gold and then me to turn around and dump on somebody below me. And so, but at some point we realized that, how's a good way to put it? Employees are really bad filtration systems. They can't get dumped on all the time and hear all the bad news and all the stuff and then turn around and be customer facing and be like blue skies, puppy dogs, rainbows, and unicorns to the customer. It doesn't happen. Right. And so what ends up happening with, if you got a B2C type company, a customer facing company, I'm not happy. Well, if I'm dealing with the customer and I'm not happy, the customer's going to know, hey, this cat isn't happy. Do I really want to go back? And maybe I want to go back as a customer. Maybe I want to go somewhere else. I mean, this guy's fussing about how bad his job is. He's supposed to be taking care of me as a customer. I don't really care. I just want my stuff.
Right.
So that's another way that kind of thing really affects profitability and sales. It's like, in talking to a friend of mine that used to work for Gallup, he's an organizational psychologist, and he worked with the Q12 survey for years, right? So he knows all the gaps. He knows whatever. He actually left there and basically created his own to fill in the gaps for, what Gallup doesn't measure. And they know it. It's such a behemoth and a juggernaut. You can't go back and retool a juggernaut easily because, you lose some of your data tracking year over year because you're using a different tool at that point.
Right.
So, but he knew what it was. And when he was at Gallup, that's where they come up with, there was a lot of ways to try to figure out how much is this disengagement costing organizations. And the easiest, simplest way they were able to come up with a roll-up bit of data is a percentage of salary. They looked at a ton of different things, and all of that they kind of grouped into the easiest and simplest way for employers to figure out, ballpark, what is this costing you, is come up with that. It's a percentage of their salary. and that's where they come up with the 34%.
Mhm.
How they got that number? I mean, I don't work for Gallup. I don't know. But
Yeah.
my buddy was like, hey, that's why we come up with that number at the time, because they said it was the simplest, easiest way, it was the most accurate way to really be able to get that information out to employees or out to organizations.
Yeah. Sorry, I've had dogs and people coming into the one of the dogs one of the dogs one of the dogs here actually opened the door with his nose, and I was like,
He's like, what
please
you
don't.
got going on? Hey, well, at least you didn't hop up on your lap and be like, hey, everybody.
I hope not. He's a 150-pound dog.
I have one that's pretty close to that. Unless he still thinks he's a lap dog. It's like, no.
Oh, I know. He doesn't realize how big he is.
No.
And guys, I am not 150 pounds. To anyone it's a big dog.
So you're like,
Yeah.
you got to get off me, man. This is, yeah, but I'm sure when you're walking him down the road, nobody messes with you.
That's true. That's true. People are afraid of him. But I wanted to comment about what you just said about the employee that is engaging with customers that is miserable at their job. Because since you mentioned that, I remember a specific incident. It was about 2 weeks ago. I was at the outlet mall at a certain store, and I was waiting online, and this lady that was a cashier was complaining and bitching like it was bad to the other cashier about how so-and-so didn't come in, and she called and said she's not going to be here till 1 or 2 or whatever, and I've been here since 5, and I don't care, I'm leaving at 1 even if she's not here. And I was like, yikes. And as soon as I got up to the register, though, she was like all nice and pleasant to me. Fine, great, rang me up, not mean to me, but like I heard that whole conversation, and it's like I forgot about it until you mentioned that, but I was uncomfortable as a customer. You don't want to hear that. Like, I mean, like you said, you don't care, but you kind of do care because it makes your experience unpleasant.
Right. And I mean, if they're in the break room and they're bitching, moaning, fussing, griping, whatever, man, you do you, boo. I don't care.
Exactly.
But the problem is when you're out there, it's a natural, you get so familiar with your surroundings. And I'm saying this like defending them to a certain degree.
I get it.
You get so comfortable with your surroundings. Like, this is my work area. So we're just talking at work. What they forget is the customer is sitting there listening to this back and forth tirade, rant, back and forth, horribly uncomfortable. Don't want to be. I don't want to listen to this. Like, I don't want to. If it's that bad, like, I can go shop somewhere else. Now, granted, you come up there, they put the game face on. Hi, welcome to so and so. Thanks. What do you want? Whatever. Let me ring you up. And how are you doing today? Great that they put the game. They were astute enough to put the game face on when you actually walked into the register. But when you got the little outlet more. Well, when you're like 6 feet away, right? There's really it's no different than like this 6 foot social distancing thing, right? There wasn't any science behind it. It just sounded good at the time. Well, when you're 6 feet away, it's not like the customer can't hear you, right? It's like, no. When you walk out to the floor, you leave the break room, and as soon as you hit the floor, you're over there folding clothes. It doesn't matter. There's customers shopping. If there's customers in the building, always put the game face on, because they're going to hear that. And like, I don't care. I don't want to hear. If it's that bad, go somewhere else. But it's like, if it's that bad, I'll take my business somewhere else. I don't want to do. I mean, you want to do business with the company that's like hosing over their employees? To a certain extent, it can be transactional. You don't care, but you're like, God, every time I come in here, everybody's miserable. Right. Like, this place sucks. Like,
it depends on how badly you want the products. If you don't want them that bad or need them, no, you're right. You'll go somewhere else.
Well, and sometimes there's not other alternatives, and I want this product, and it's here, and it's the price I want. Fine, I'll just suck it up and do it. But nowadays, there's so many choices, there's so many items, and there's very few places that you're like, this is the only place I can get this, right? And I'm joking, but it's like, there's only one place in the world you can get God's chicken, right? They joke about it being Chick-fil-A, right? So I mean, everybody loves Chick-fil-A. One thing I could say about that is you're probably never going to go there and hear them just, I can't believe what this guy did. You're probably not going to hear that at a Chick-fil-A, right? But you probably will at a Taco Bell. You probably will at a McDonald's. You probably will at some other places. They've intentionally built the culture there. But saying there's only one place. You can go get chicken anywhere, but there's only one place you can get Chick-fil-A, right? And so there's so many people that are fans of it. I swear to God, it's I see the new drive-throughs, I see the new buildings that they're building or whatever. And I think when you get a franchise, it's literally a license to print money. I think they have to get like permission from the US Treasury to like allow you to open up a Chick-fil-A because you literally have a license to print money at that point.
Yeah.
As much business as they do. But I mean, unless it's a sole source type thing, there's I mean, I can go to this other store and get a person. I can go to this other store and get clothes. I can go to this other place and get the same thing. Like,
or you can go to Amazon, or order it online.
Yes. Yeah, I can go there and look, and they're just over there fussing. I take a picture of what I want. Find it on Amazon. Cool. I just order it from there. It's probably cheaper. I'll have it in the morning anyway.
I've done that. I've taken pictures of things I've seen in stores for a variety of reasons, not specifically for that, but like as a reminder later to look something up. But yeah, like, why are you going to go back someplace when you can just go on your computer right now in your pajamas?
Exactly. And that's one reason, and that's just one small way that people not being happy campers at work cost companies money. And here's the problem. If I'm listening to that mess and I'm just like, man, screw this. I'm at the mall, right? I'll go I'll go to the other. I'm not going to get it at P.L.L.C. I'll go to Penny's. Well, whatever. I'll go to another store. I'll get it from a different place, right? I'm just, I don't want to hear the fussing. How are you going to track that?
Right. Because
your CFO is not going to get, there's not a line item. What's that?
How is anybody going to know that I stopped shopping somewhere because of that? How is anybody going to know that 100,000 other people stopped shopping at a certain store because of that? Not everybody is vocal in that, we don't all go online and literally complain about stuff. Some do. And maybe if it's really, really bad, you do. But most people, in my opinion, aren't going to go online and complain. They're just going to stop going to whatever establishment that is, restaurant, store, whatever.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, why aren't our sales the way they are? Why aren't our productivity the way? Why isn't our, it didn't matter. Why are our numbers not where we wanted them to be? I don't know. People just left. And like I said, they never said one way or the other. They never did. So what do you do at that point? It's kind of like, well, and like I said, there's certain things like cost of disengagement, cost of turnover, customer churn like that, hey, man, I just don't want to hear this. I'm just going to walk out the door. Right. I'm sitting there in line and you got guys that are just like, I don't care. And it's talking about a fast food restaurant. You're waiting in line. And it's like, God, I've been here like 15 minutes. I haven't even taken my order yet. Like, forget this. And I walk out the door. No one's tracking that. But it's $20 that just walked out the door. And what's the chance?
But not just $20 that went out the door. $1,000 in the future that's not coming back.
Lifetime customer value. I'm not coming back. I used to come here all the time. This place has turned into a dumpster fire. I don't need it that bad. I'll just go somewhere else. And you're right. So it's not just the $20 then. It's what's the lifetime customer value. Like Starbucks. My God. I forget what it was. I saw an interview the other day. They were talking about what Starbucks calculated as their lifetime customer value. It is ungodly huge. Like once we get somebody that starts shopping at Starbucks, so they can spend a ton of money to put stores in different places, a ton of money to acquire a customer because their lifetime customer value is huge. People love their Starbucks and they're going to pay that $5 or $4 for the coffee and they're going to do it every day for 20 years. That is insane how much a customer is worth for Starbucks. So if you piss them off and they walk out the door and now all of a sudden like, you know what? I don't need this, man. I can go Dunkin'. That's a lot of money over the course of a lot of years that that's where there's a lot of ways, unfortunately, that unhappy campers could really cost companies a lot of money. Gallup just figured out this is the easiest way to kind of roll this up into how do I make the closest rough estimate that I possibly can through research. And that's what they put out.
Right. Well, it makes sense. There's no way you can, get the exact, it would just be impossible to get the exact number. But I think talking about what you said that made me remember that customer experience at that store at the outlet mall, I think that's a perfect example because the only reason I didn't leave is because I was online for a long time and there was the sale. But if I would have just walked out, and there have been businesses now that I think about it, that I will never go back to again. And I think that's a good way to an easy, simplistic, for my mind,
Yeah.
way to convey to business owners how disengaged employees are going to cost them money. That customer, not it's not all customers, but that customer that interacts with that disengaged employee, if it was bad enough, they're never going to come back again. So you're going to lose that, not only that day, but like you said, that lifetime value of that customer. So I
And
think
like you
that's
said, that, and you hit the nail on the head. 99% of folks are not going to get on there and go bananas on social media. I mean, obviously, you have a couple Karens that are going to get, oh my God, it was horrible. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, if it's bad enough, we all will. I'll be honest. I've left a bad review if it was bad enough. It's got to be bad for me to
right.
make it worth my while. I'll leave a good review in a heartbeat if it's outstanding service.
Right.
It's got to be bad for me to get in there and like go scorched earth on Google for the review. It's really got to be bad for that. But then most people don't.
And you know what? Usually the Karens, like when you read the description or you hear about it, you think, I don't know, that doesn't sound quite right. Maybe the waiter was having a bad day, or if it's on Facebook and someone else chimes in, well, actually, I was there and what I saw was blah blah. So sometimes I take that stuff with a grain of salt. But main point is, the people that you're really losing money from are not the ones who are going to, actively voice how upset they are, in my opinion.
100%. No, 100%. And like I said, it depends on the industry. It might be, I could be cranking out and focus and working a whole lot harder, but I don't, right? So my output for a knowledge worker job isn't what it is. Maybe I'm not running off a customer, but I'm not, I could, if I really was like in it to win it and focused and really like cranking this stuff out, I could probably produce a whole lot more, but I produce enough to where, like I said, I work hard enough not to get fired. They pay me just enough not to quit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a contract, kind of an unsigned contract, and we'll just leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen so much. And if you think about the bigger the organization, it's tougher to put a thumb on that, right? How many people are, hey, I'll look at a couple cat videos, or hey, maybe I'll take a couple extra trips to the coffee pot, right? That I really don't need to, right? Or hey, maybe I'll stop off at the cubicle for Joe and have a conversation for a little bit, right? I mean, how much of this multiplied, if you got 1,500, 5,000, 6,000 people that work for a company, and you start multiplying that out, across those 4,000 or 5,000 people, and then you get the folks that are really like, I hate this place, blah blah blah. It's kind of like the Office Space. You know what I mean? That movie is you're like, we're moving him down to the basement, and he finally burns the place down when you take a stapler, right? But I mean, it's
Yeah,
I
forgot about that part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how the cathartic moment when they were so mad at the job, they went out and they took it out on the printer, right? They took the copier out there
and beating with baseball bats.
Baseball bats to it like the mafia does, in the movies, right? So but a lot of that too is caused by that same type of manager. Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday.
Do the TPS reports on Saturday. That would be great.
Yeah. Did you know crappy memo?
Yeah, it's that's a great example. Just crappy leadership just fosters disengagement.
But you know what? Remember in that movie, the bosses, it's been a long time, but they brought in people to help with something. I don't know if they were trying to help employees.
It was hilarious. They brought in these two consultants and they were like, so tell me what you do for a living. Tell me what your job is. And like the guy that they moved down to the basement was, I'm good with the customers. I deal with them so the engineers don't have to. I got people skills. And he's screaming at him, right? And they're like, holy crap, it scared him to death, right? Yeah. And then the one guy just all nonchalant, like, I just come in and do my thing, whatever. And then they're like, oh man, this guy's great. And they're like, we hate him. Like, oh, this guy's fantastic. But yeah, they were doing these job task analysis to kind of figure out what everybody does and who's needed and who's not needed. And obviously puts a bad light on, well, what they were doing is just crap anyway, but it puts a bad light on, I'm bringing somebody in from the outside to help with efficiencies. Because unfortunately, help with efficiencies just mean, like in the 80s, how can we just lay off tons of people so the share price goes up?
Right.
And that's not what I'm talking about whatsoever. Absolutely not. No. But like I said, but it ends up being, and I don't mean to be disparaging, I just use this in a kind of jovial, like facetious way. Well, you need to deal with so-and-so department, they're messed up. They have issues. They have whatever. It's probably more you guys, right? When the C-suite, where the air is thin, is this guy's messed up and this department's and these other problems. Probably you guys are the problem, right? So, and even if they're not, if you can really fine tune that, even if they truly aren't the problem, but you can get those guys, just completely on the same page, and like I said, just absolutely fine tune. People are going to see it. People are always watching. People think they aren't. They are. They see it all. Employees and managers see everything. They see every bad thing you say, every bad thing you do. They see where you're incongruent with the values and the goals and what you say in the company meetings, and that either adds to trust, that either bolsters trust, that either builds the culture, or it takes away from it and kills trust and burns the culture. One way or the other. And if I see, they say one thing in the company meeting, it's all, peace, love, and happiness, and all of a sudden they're treating everybody like crap. It's like, wait a minute, whoa. Those two don't jive. That cognitive dissonance really is like, I'm not. Yeah, that it's like, maybe I need to back off a little bit. Maybe I don't need to be quite as aggressive. Maybe I'll just come in and do my job. And just kind of keep my head, below, keep my head down.
Yeah.
And just
stay off the radar.
Exactly. And then, but what do you do when you're off the radar? Are you high performing? Are you doing that extra discretionary effort? Are you going above and beyond?
Of course not. Because you're not going to be doing that extra effort if you're trying to keep, if you don't want people to see you. I mean, it just makes sense.
Exactly. And so there you go. There goes your productivity, your efficiency, your profitability down because people aren't producing as much because they're trying to stay off the radar, because they're trying to keep some peace. So they realize, it just all kind of builds together. There's stuff that we see all the time, but sometimes you don't put the pieces together. Oh, if you take this piece over here and this piece over here and this piece over here, wow, I can see if I put all this together, how that really could, in a big organization, impact productivity, profits, whatever, efficiency, output, however you want to look at it. And like I said, that money's already spent. We've already spent the money on the payroll and benefits. It's just a matter of, I feel like we can be doing so much better, but we're not. I probably butcher it now, but I think that, I joke about there being 3 basic symptoms of misaligned leadership. I'm causing friction and I'm missing opportunities, right? I'm stifling my growth, or I'm doing okay, but I don't feel like I'm doing as well as I could be doing as far as the organization, and I'm driving off my top talent. So those 3 things I always talk about being the top 3 symptoms of kind of misaligned senior leadership.
So after all of that, and frankly, I'm not just saying this, I think this was a great conversation, and just us talking, this conversation made me think of simple examples that all of us can relate to show, why leadership, regardless of the size of the company, needs to think about these things, because they are losing, literally losing money on disengaged employees. So, Dr. Dave, where do you come in to help the companies? Who can you help? What can you do? When should they contact you?
Well, one thing, any company that just feels like, hey, I would like to be doing better. I like my numbers better. We're in a growth mode. We really want to, we feel like we can do better. And one, it's great for consultation. Just, hey, let's talk. Where are you at? What's going on? That, depending on the size of the company, we run your numbers against the, against the Gallup averages. I have a cost of disengagement calculator. We created a Google sheet that has all the Gallup math in it. And so I can literally just plug in, what's your employee count? What's your average salary? What's your percentage of benefits? I put it at the Gallup 16%, and boom. All right, here's potentially what it is, right? So I've got, I work with bigger companies and I have smaller companies. So when you're talking about 300, 500, 1,000, you have when you plug those numbers in, I just plugged in numbers on my website for a 300 person company, and it was over 1.5 million a year. So we obviously do the math, you start getting bigger companies, it starts getting bigger amounts. But I also know too, that there's smaller companies in that, all right, I got 40, 50 employees up to maybe 200 employees, right? I'm in that kind of 50 to 150, 50 to 200 range. They don't have enough employees to where, yes, it's costing them money, but it's not such a big amount of money that, the delta is not there enough to say, hey, I want to do that. I want to work with you for 18 months to do whatever. So I for larger companies that have those employees, that have those large amounts of money that they're really trying to cut in half, I have a process that we work through, and it's 18 months, and it's one of those things. It's deep in the weeds, but it's the same process. Diagnostic, the first half, all diagnostic. And then we look at all the data and what have we come up with? We've done some baseline employee engagement surveys. We've looked at some stress assessment type things. And kind of, okay, well, what's the root causes of different organizational stressors that can cause people to be disengaged? It's great to find out, hey, I got 25% of my people have to be disengaged. Hey, a little bit of why would help. Because sometimes you don't get that over there. So you figure out, well, what are the major stressors that these guys are having, and break that down by department, right? We have some other diagnostic tools that we end up using, right? And then now we have all this data. We sit there with the CEO and the team are like, okay, now that we have this, where do we need to go forward? What are the problems we've discovered, and how are we going to fix those, right? And then we just go forth to craft a program together to fix those. And like I said, typically what we'll do a baseline employee engagement survey. We'll do one at 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. And most of the work is in that first year. But like my friend that worked at Gallup, he was telling me that, hey, you do a baseline, 6 months in, you're not going to see a lot of change. 12 months in, hey, man, we're going in the right direction. But you've been working with them intensely for 12 months. You're not going to see the results until that 18-month assessment. You do that last one, and now it just skyrockets because all the work you've done over the last 12 months is finally starting to show promise. And on the other end, I have a process that's research-based that we look at. I love the research. It's just super fascinating to me. This guy, James Fisher, interviewed like 700 or 800 different CEOs of top-performing companies over the course of a few years. And he did this massive qualitative analysis thing, wrote a book on it. And what he realized is he was studying small businesses according to the Small Business Administration, 500 and under, right? So he realized that as you increase in employee count, the research showed that the level of complexity increased as well. So he took from one person startup to 500 people, and he broke them into 7 different stages, right? So he calls it stages of growth. So when I go from having 50 employees to 75 employees, I go from, say, a stage 4 to stage 5. Well, the primary challenges I'm going to have at that level are going to be different. The way I need to manage the company is different. The way my leadership style needs to come across is different. But I may have issues that never cropped up or I've never fixed as I was growing. Cash flow issues, leadership gap issues, trust issues, it doesn't matter. Every single stage that this guy come up with, here's the 5 primary challenges you're going to see at that stage. Well, if you don't fix it as you grow, I might put more employees in. That doesn't mean I got things right from the beginning. And so honestly, those issues really haunt you like a pissed off ghost at Halloween, man. They're not going to leave. It's like a haunted house, man. You need to bring in the exorcist to get those things fixed. But what we do is we work with them. We have one thing that we do that we start every engagement off with. I'll tell you that in a minute. And that's more of here's the preview of us working together, right? If we can really mesh and get along and we connect with you and your senior leadership team, awesome, man, let's do it. If not, hey, man, no harm, no foul, right? It just is. Here's this 2 half days workshop that we really dig deep into the team, communication styles, what drives them, what motivates them, all about the team. And what's funny is all of a sudden at the end, like, oh, crap, I get it. Now I see why Joe and Sue are at each other's throats. Holy smokes, I get it. Breaks down a ton of barriers. Total, like, cathartic moment. And then they're like, wow, what are we going to do about it? Like, how are we going to move forward now that we know all this, right? Super awesome. When we start with that, with both processes, whether it's the big, long process for a larger company, and then the smaller one, it's a 6-month thing. We do a 2-day facilitation. Everybody gets heard. They figure the top 5 challenges based on these research that they need to fix over the next 6 months. They got an owner. And more importantly, everybody gets heard, because there's a lot of people on a leadership team that have been trying. They just don't feel like they've been heard. They got great ideas. they don't feel like maybe the CEO or the rest of the team has really listened to what they have. Everybody puts it all on the table, and I'll use a legal analogy. It's like a murder trial. Ain't nobody leave it until it's unanimous, right? It's like when you get a unanimous, it's like we agree unanimously. These 5 things are the things we need to work on over the next 6 to 12 months. Once it's unanimous and everybody has like a committee chair and owner for that process, you walk out that door, you're all on the same page, and your job is to sell that vision to the rest of the company. Here's what we're going to do over the next 6 to 12 months. Here are the problems we're going to work on. We're going to make this place great. And when they do, and I meet with them like half day, once a day, once a month for the next 6 months. But as they work through this as a smaller company, now they're a lot more successful. They're a lot more profitable. And the cool thing about it is, hey, I'm 75 employees now. I want to go to be 100. Well, that's that next stage up. Well, I can actually look, and it's the only predictive model on the market. I can see, wow, when I hit 100 employees, here's going to be my major challenges. I really want to get to that point. I can start preparing for those challenges today. Hire people, put people in place today. So when I hit that mark, I'm ready to go. Like, it doesn't smack me in the face because, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this new level of complexity at this higher employee count. I'm already prepared for it, man. I can hit the ground running, and it makes you growing as an organization, as a small company, so much more efficient. So, like I said, I got something for kind of both ends of it. That communication style, driving forces, soft skill competencies, really breaking down the team data and really going deep into that over 2 half days. That's really where I start, because that is just, I watch people walk out of there and they're like, I've had this training before. I've had this type of assessment before. I've done this before, whatever. I've never had anything like this before. Like, this is unreal. So it just totally changes the way they communicate with each other, the way they deal with each other, the way they're putting themselves in other people's shoes. Wow, okay, well, I didn't realize Joe was like this and he was wired like that. And here's how he sees himself, but here's how he comes across under a moderate amount of stress, or maybe under a severe amount of stress, and not even realize he's coming across that way. I'm picking this up. He doesn't even realize he's putting this out. I'm taking offense to it. I mean, it's people dynamic. You deal with people all the time. But when you know that, and I know how my team is wired, and I know what I have to do to meet them in the middle, and they know what they need to do to kind of meet me in the middle, now that we know how we're each other wired, makes for a completely different environment. It's like a weight lifted off people's shoulders. But that's kind of that where we start the process on either end, whether it's a smaller business or a bigger business. And that's how, hey, do we make a good connection? Do we hit it off with your senior leadership team? If we do, awesome. If we don't, hey, man, it's been nice knowing you. No harm, no foul, man. That's cool. Because if we can't make a good connection and really work together well, why do something in the longer term? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell folks, even if you don't go for the longer process, just that one team workshop for your senior leadership team really moves the needle, even if you didn't do anything else. So that's just a great place to start. But I'm always happy to have a conversation with business owners, CEOs, people in that position, to see kind of, hey, what are some of the struggles and challenges that you're working with? And hey, let's run your numbers to see where you fall as far as the disengagement stuff, and see if it's a good fit to work together.
Okay. Well, can you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. The easiest way to get in touch with me is you can go to the website. A lot of information on there. It's a Transformative Alignment Group. You can Google it, or you just go to TAG, T-A-G for Transformative Alignment Group, tagalignment.com. And you can always look me up, Dave Miles, on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I live. Like I said, I've got a podcast, which Gene was interviewed on about a couple months ago. It's called Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. I would highly recommend folks to look it up. We put out one interview every week. Typically, it drops at Monday morning at 8 a.m. And then we do clips on all the social media platforms, normally about 4 a day, that we'll take clips from the podcast and put out there. So last week, we had a great interview with a guy named Tim Murphy. He is a turnaround specialist for the family entertainment center industry, like amusement parks and those type of things, your Top Golfs and stuff like that. And then this week, We did an interview with a guy named Nick Narangis, big, kind of philanthropist, multiple, it owns a ton of McDonald's, hotels, shopping centers, stuff like that. But he's just a great guy, award-winning guy, does a lot of acting and stuff too now. But like I said, just fantastic dude. He's a member of our Rotary Club, but he's like I said, did a lot of the community, big time philanthropist and whatever. So that was an amazing interview. The only thing I regret about it is we scheduled it for an hour and we had something budding up afterwards. We could have gone for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The stories were just fascinating. The stuff he wanted to cover, it was great. So I would recommend anybody just Google Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. We typically, that lives on YouTube, but you can kind of access it through all the channels. So either tagalignment.com, look me up on LinkedIn, or check out the podcast at Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. And beyond that, that's probably the easiest way to catch up with me.
Well, I put all of those in the comments here. So everybody, you have different ways to get in contact with Dr. Dave. And Dave, we definitely need to do this again. I have to get going, but I should have known that you and I were just going to talk for an hour. I think this conversation was actually very enlightening, and I'd love to have you on again in the future. Maybe we can focus on something specific. I'll leave it to you to, figure out what what would be most beneficial for people. But I think this was great, and I'd love to have you on again.
Sure. No, I'd love it. Like I said, and like I said, I love talking about leadership. Obviously, we had quite a bit of that when we were, when we did the interview, but like I said, having those kind of conversations, one, to just keep things fresh in your mind. And I just, like I said, I love having the conversations with folks, and I love meeting different CEOs and different business owners. And, I really, especially the ones that are there to get stuff done. That's what I love about it. It's the, you don't deal with a lot of the big high corporate New York stuff. Most of the CEOs and folks I work with have a definitive lack of Brooke Brothers suits. Let's just put it that way. They're on the boots on the ground to get stuff done and make things better for their organization. And typically they have to answer to a board of directors. And there's nothing worse than having to go to a board meeting and answer to a board of directors who are like, hey, all of my people underneath of me, these fools can't get along to save their life, right? Mm-hmm. This is not the story I want to be telling the board when my job depends on keeping the board happy. So for those people that are in that situation, I love talking to you, I love having the conversation, my kind of people. So like I said, those are the people that we can help the most.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Dr. Dave, so much for coming on my live, and thanks everybody for watching. And Dave, I will be in touch, and I know I'll see you soon at a Rotary meeting. I'll let you know when that's going to be for sure.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.